here's Bari Weiss. This is someone who is like completely disingenuous, made her bones by protesting Palestinian professors at Columbia, trying to get professors fired.
AKA canceled.
Canceled. This was her sort of first public foray, if you will.
The queen of cancel culture, spelled CWEEN, so you can alliterate it.
She wrote something on Substack that the world has gone mad. Remember, this is the person who elevated Dave Rubin and
the rest of the whole idea.
Bari Weinstein, Brett Weinstein, who's now pushing ivermectin and vaccine skepticism. I wonder why the world has gone so mad. Was it because these lunatics and charlatans were promoted in the biggest news platform maybe in the world
as sense makers,
as being such sense makers that the crazy world is trying to stifle them in some way? But here she is with Brian Stettler. And and again, if you were rated at your job, if you had done this at your job, do you think that a year and a half later, 5 years later, 3 years later, you would be celebrated on cable television? I don't think I would be. Here's Brian Stettler with Bari Weiss.
You write, there are tens of millions of Americans who aren't on the hard left or the hard right who feel the world has gone mad. So in what ways has the world gone mad?
Well, when you have the chief reporter on the beat of COVID for the New York Times talking about how questioning or pursuing the question of the lab leak is racist, the world has gone mad. When you're not able to say out loud and in public that there are differences between men and women, the world has gone mad. When we're not allowed to acknowledge that rioting
Pause it for 1 second. Pause it for 1 second. What does allowed mean? What does allowed mean? Like,
she's on CNN saying exactly the things she said cannot be said.
Making tons of cash on Substack saying these things that can't be said. I hope when she gets to the madness, she talks about the Weinstein brothers, who she promoted, who are pushing anti-vaccine and pushing ivermectin, who have all been allowed to do that. Allowed. But go back and let's listen to this. This is just unbelievable.
To say out loud and in public that there are differences between men and women, the world has gone mad.
You're doing
when
it
we're
now.
Not allowed to acknowledge that rioting is rioting and it is bad, and that silence is not violence, but violence is violence. The world has gone mad. When we're not able to say that Hunter Biden's laptop is a story worth pursuing, the world has gone mad. When, in the name of progress, young school children, as young as kindergarten, are being separated in public schools because of their race, and that is called progress rather than segregation, the world has gone mad.
What?
There are dozens of examples that I could share with you and with
And
your
you often
viewers,
say, you say
everyone
allowed.
sort of knows this, and
you say we're not allowed, we're not
chasm
able.
between-
Who's the people stopping the conversation?
watch
Who are
this.
they?
People that work at networks, frankly, like the one I'm speaking on right now, who try and claim that, it was racist.
Look at his face.
to
Okay, I'm
investigate
sorry.
the
Pause it
lab leak
right there.
theory. It was
Just quickly, like someone clipped out that one moment on Twitter. She's on CNN right now complaining about being canceled on CNN, and Stelter makes a pretty amazing face there. I don't want to like talk over the entire clip, but like that just, I was waiting for that moment
It's
because
also
it's so
really
good.
irritating because this is how these people have always gotten to people's homes. Like, why does anybody know who any of these freaks are? It's because the New York Times. And
She was literally she had
New York Times.
the most coveted
position.
real estate in media for an extended period of time.
And she wanted to be fired from the New York Times so badly so she could say that she was canceled, and then she didn't. They didn't fire her. She resigned, and she came up with all these like mean slacks that she could find from her coworkers to talk about how she was canceled. Girl, you weren't canceled. You resigned from your position to get something more lucrative happening over on Substack.
There's an implicit mythology in all these sort of Substack crew about their criticisms of the media as if the media was good before it started getting woke, as if the New York Times hasn't been publishing just the most atrocious, like, I mean, we had Milton Alamati just to talk about like the representation of Africans. Right. Like, what was the world mad then? How mad was that world?
Exactly. Aaron is not cool, says this Barry slam poetry sucks. But let's continue.
Yeah.
Go back, because I want to see that moment where she has to come up with like, oh, wait a second. Never thought I'd be asked who's not allowing me to talk. Oh, it's the people who have invited me to be on your show that are not allowing me to talk.
Who
Previously hired me at the New York Times.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, literally, he was a reporter at the New York Times. Like, why isn't he? I mean, also, Brian Stettler, you can't play this on TV when you are the one who is creating this nightmare.
Here's.
You say
Everyone
allowed.
sort of knows this, and
You say we're not allowed, we're not
chasm
able.
between-
Who's the people stopping the conversation? Who are they?
People that work at networks, frankly, like the one I'm speaking on right now, who try and claim that, you know, it was racist to investigate the lab leak theory. It was.
But
I mean,
who
let's
said
just
that
take
at
an
CNN?
example.
But I'm just saying that when you say allowed, I just think it's a provocative thing you say. You say we're not allowed to talk about these things, but they're all over the internet. I can Google them. I can
Brian,
find them everywhere. I've heard about every story you
Of
mentioned.
course.
So I'm just suggesting, of course, people are allowed to cover whatever they want to cover.
But you and I both know, and it would be delusional to claim otherwise, that touching your finger to an increasing number of subjects that have been deemed third rail by the mainstream institutions and increasingly by some of the tech companies will lead to reputational damage, perhaps you losing your job. Your children sometimes being demonized as well. And so what happens is a kind of internal self-censorship. This is something that I saw over and over again when I was at the New York Times.
Oh my God.
God, I was at the New York Times and I left. You had this incredible media perch and you gave it up. And there is absolutely no indication. Did she ever claim that she was like in any way censored?
Well, no, because
There was woke cliques that didn't like her.
Yes, right.
There was people at work who didn't like her. You know what's weird? She didn't mention that. She said reputational damage, which of course is what happens. Is another way of saying people are critiquing my writing. Yes. The other was what what was it, like her kids? She doesn't have kids, but she knows of other people whose kids. And what was the other one that she said? Did she say she didn't
Loss
say
of jobs? I think she might have mentioned
loss of jobs. She walked away from her job.
Yes.
She didn't mention there are cliques who don't like you there. You wouldn't be popular in the commissary.
I just want to go back and list what she said there of all of the stories that are cancelable. The lab leak theory, there's been a variety of reporting on that. The differences between men and women, I'm not sure what she's referring to there. Rioting.
There was an entire 20-year genre of stand-up that was based on that.
Yeah, it's seemingly continuing today. Hunter Biden's laptop, and then she gives an allusion to her interpretation of critical race theory, which is now just segregation.
Segregation? Three things.
Hold on. I just want to make this point because she hasn't said shit about that story that we covered earlier in the week from NBC about that school that was 4 days ago. 4 days before this happened, this recording happened, sanctioned a teacher for having an anti-racism book in her classroom. 4 days later, they're already saying that they need to teach both sides of the Holocaust in that same school district. And I thought that Bari Weiss was so concerned about anti-Semitism in this country. And she's not said anything about that. In fact, she'll talk about the critical race theory part of that, but not what her efforts and her ideological fellows and allies, what their argument is leading to, which is rampant anti-Semitism in those same schools and districts.
Absolutely. And the last three that she mentioned, the riots, how did that work out? Those riots that were supposedly caused by the left and now we know were caused by the right wing, the far right that you are dancing with, literally online in your Substacks. And then the second, what was the second one that she said after that? After riots? Hunter Biden. Oh yeah, that's a real good one. Let's lead with that one. I mean, but ultimately, Barri Weiss and whoever's next in line to Barri Weiss, like Brian Stettler, you can sit here and you can be like, you sound ridiculous. Just like you did 6 years ago when you had Scotty Nels Hughes and all the crazy Kayleigh McEnany and all the crazy people from the Trump administration. CNN is mostly responsible in this larger cable news world of legitimizing these folks. It's not, I mean, this is the problem, is it's like Donald Trump was able to go on and on and on and act like a victim while he was leading in the polls. And CNN would have his little, crazy crew on there saying, well, we're being victimized. We're being attacked by the media. Meanwhile, we're in the media. And Brian Stelter's like, well, let me ask you a tough question. How about this? Don't have them on. You don't have us on. Don't have them on.
Yeah.
It was interesting when she says like it's causing self-censorship, because I think she's telling the truth about that. I think a lot of these people are censoring some of their true beliefs. I think they can't express what they truly believe about, say, border issues or Gaza or any number of hot button issues. So they feel this weight of self-censorship, because if they actually express themselves, people would they'd suffer reputational damage.
This is what I've been arguing about cancel culture. It's the same as like politically correct, incorrect, or we're correct, or whatever it was. It's just like all we're talking about is racism, misogyny, and just ideas that are incredibly regressive in a vapor form. They can't actually articulate these things in the way that they want to anymore. They can't say that, Palestinians are, she can't go on television and say Palestinians are animals, or other people can't go on and say, misogynistic things or racist things. And so they resent the fact that then they have to make it about second order issues from that.
They resent that they can't just talk forthrightly about Title 42, for instance, and how they feel about that.
Exactly. And so that's all this is. And the idea that we're not allowed to, we could suffer reputational damage. This has been going on forever in this country. Again, the only difference is just how society has now decided what the standards and norms are. That's it. 25 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, if you were talking about any type of equality for black people, you were shut out. If you were talking about any type of notion of equality for women, you were shut out. There was not even an opportunity for you to articulate it and have reputational damage. You just didn't have a reputation. You were not given a career. Your career would not suffer from those comments, because the moment you utter them, your career is gone.
Oh, it's such a good point, because that's why part of why the massive gaps in that cancel culture logic for right wingers, the people on the left who have those ideas, they just weren't given a platform.
Of course.
So they can't claim cancel culture, and even if they did, no one would listen to them.
Right. You couldn't be canceled then because you were never programmed.
Yes.
You were never on the schedule. That's the way it worked before. You wouldn't get through the door. And
it still works that way, unless you're able to break through and become a Bernie Sanders and AOC. Sam, you're not on as I'm definitely not. I mean, this is before socialism was dangerous. Now it's dangerous to shut them out. Let's have a Bari Weiss on and a Joy Behar and a Meghan McCain, and that's what America looks like.
Yeah. I mean, I just think, it's, and Matt brought up Milton Alamati on the way that, the New York Times used to refer to Africa. I mean, the entire continent was just are you kidding?
Big cookie jar.
Yeah. The Iraq war coverage. I don't know.
Yeah. All right.
It's just gone crazy.
I guess so.
Because of the wokes.
That kind of coverage she probably agrees with. So now it's all woke.